They were doing things they'd never done. Some people took up pottery, baking sourdough bread, raising gardens, getting chickens. And some people took up sewing. Some people took up hiking. Some people took up sports that they didn't have to coagulate with other people. And that was safe for their space. Everything changed. Everything changed. The economy has changed. Everything around us has changed. But the entrepreneurs of Main Street, even though it went through a stressful period, tell us about how that connects with your history, what you've been doing over the last several years with the Main Street entrepreneurs. Tell us what Main Street Entrepreneurs stands for, and tell us what Troy Dooley stands for, because you obviously are an icon in the marketing industry. And I want everybody to get to know you just a little bit and how far we go back.
Well, there you gave a lot there to try to cover, but I want to really hone in on something that you brought up, and that is the economy changed, or what we call Main Street changed, and that's really your middle America people. But in this case, Jeff, we've seen this go international. People that are on Main Street in all these different countries started to see a shift because they got locked down. You look at China, really the whole Asian area first started going into lockdown. And when you've got a city or an island like Hong Kong, or you've got China, which is so vast in its resources and its history of people, and you lock that down, then you have the emotional side, which you and I've talked about from that psychological standpoint. But then you have what are we going to do to support our family? What am I going to do to survive myself? How do I keep my hope alive? And we watched just a trend, really, where all of a sudden people stopped looking at what we might call a cottage industry or a side gig, I think is one of the modern terms they use now. They, instead of looking at that as, oh, well, that's good for somebody else, they started realizing, well, wait a minute, I like to sew. I like to tinker on motors. I want to learn how to do bees. That's one. I just love watching your videos on that. All of a sudden, people started to realize I can do stuff on my own. I don't have to rely on governments. I don't have to rely on the big corporations. Some people who were white collar started to realize they could freelance from home. And your big ones, from Twitter to Google, all these giant companies, they actually started getting a lot more productivity in some areas from people that were focusing in on home. Now, we should bring something up here. There is a downside to that. There are people with personalities that freak out if they don't have that interaction. If they're just by themselves and isolated, that can cause problems, especially if anywhere in their life, and you're more of an expert on this one than I am, but if anywhere in their life they were isolated, whether they were told to go to their room because of punishment, or some guys that were in jail, that isolation caused them to have some different types of situations happen. But as we started to come back into I guess we call it a post-COVID world, we found 40% of people did not want to go back to work. They wanted
I like
to do
isolation.
it at home.
I like isolation. I'm addicted to isolation. I love it.
Well, look at, yeah, you are a prime example of that. It's like, wait a minute, you're not traveling around the world. No, I'm in my mountains and I can do my Zooms and I can run an international company and I'm good. We're seeing that happen, And so I think the numbers are skewed when we look at some of these numbers that come out from these agencies. I don't think they're taking into account that during the height of COVID, we were having almost 500,000 brand new EIN numbers that were being applied for from the IRS. These are freelancers of a variety of kinds. They might be an LLC. They might have opened up a new business of some kind. They're working from home, but those are the people that we're seeing not wanting to go back to work. And then, Jeff, we have another type of person on Main Street that I call them the lottery mentality type people. They got free money from the government, and instead of investing it, putting it in the bank for a rainy day, starting a business, they spent it. And now they're looking at, oh man, inflation's hit us, maybe a recession's hit us. We don't know what we're going to do. and now we're seeing a whole new trickle effect of that. Not everything's positive. Sometimes there is a negative that we've got to learn to help people. But my goal, your goal, I think, is to be able to show people, if you're going off grid, if you're deciding, man, I want to make my small farm work for me, I want to be able to do something, and then there a Main Street entrepreneur that's saying, well, I'm gonna launch a new business, maybe a new brick and mortar business, or I'm gonna do something. Those two can tie together. That's the way America was built. That's the way some of these other countries were built. And I think that's what we're going to be able to accomplish with people here on It's Worthwhile, because we're going to be able to give those people those ideas they need to move forward.
Now, in the Main Street entrepreneur side of things, the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about Main Street entrepreneurs is I think about the fudge shop on the corner downtown, or the barber shop, or a little restaurant, or a clothing store, or maybe even a secondhand store. It could be so many. It's an endless list of things. It could be even the cabinet maker in the neighborhood in a rural area. It doesn't have to be Main Street downtown. Main Street entrepreneurship can be anywhere, and it also can be online business. Main Street entrepreneurship can be online business. So, and with technology where we're at today, I mean, let's face it. You mentioned earlier, yes, I've traveled all over the world for years and years and years. Some countries I've been to over 300 times. And now I don't like to travel. I don't care about traveling. I don't care about going through an airport. I don't want to deal with all the chaos and the drama of going through security and dealing with that. I'd much rather argue with a leaf or a pine needle on a tree. And but the beauty of technology has allowed us to be at places that we could not have been at. You're in Florida right now. I'm up in North Carolina mountains right now. We're talking virtual through digital signals, going through data banks that I'm able to see you clearly, hear you clearly. The people are able to see a recording of what we're talking about today. It's amazing what technology can do, because I can do the same thing if I'm talking to someone in Germany or Bulgaria or Russia or Japan or
Absolutely.
Australia or South America, anywhere in the world. And we're able to be there quickly. We could have meetings in 10 different countries all at one time because of technology. Technology has helped us so much, in my opinion, to advance the marketing strategies and the entrepreneurial strategies of businesses, based off of the fact that we can have communication that's sufficient, and we can get to places we could not have if we were still back in the horse and buggy days, right? We just could not do it.
No, you hit on something here, because I've got a local buddy of mine. We eat breakfast about once a week. He owns a small company here on the island called Restoration Flooring. And when the lockdown happened, all of a sudden his employees are at home and people aren't coming into the store. But he decided he'd launch up his internet side of his business. So his wife wanted to take that. She's run with it. In 2 years, almost 3 years now, they're doing as much on online sales as they're doing out of their showroom, because people that wanted to remodel versus building a new home are now being able to go onto his website, get the education. They have a live chat with people, or they'll do a Zoom and show them what they have so that they can buy it and have it shipped to their house. So what you're saying about technology, it's working. And that's why sometimes when people say, oh, brick and mortar's out, it's all internet. I don't think so. I think it's a mixture of what we see happening. And you take somebody that has a fudge shop as an example here. They are able, if they really want to, if they want to see how to bring revenue in, well, it would be real easy for them on their website to just do a few videos every now and then showing people how to make a special type of fudge, or answering questions to people who are buying ingredients from them. We couldn't do that in the old days. It'd take us months to get a letter on how to make fudge.
You're hitting a nail on the head here. And even with many of us like me wanting to go back in time to where, and I don't say that lightly, go back in time, because I do. I want to go back to where things were simpler. I want to live a simpler life. But at the same time, I embrace technology. I embrace the benefit of technology, because it's important for farms like mine as we grow into that organic certification. We talk about our journey. We talk about growing a garden or raising chickens or raising cattle or pork or lamb or building a fence or building a barn or preserving our nature, going around and foraging mushrooms, cooking on an open fire, whatever we're doing, we're in an influencer world.
Yeah.
And that influencer world is what draws the traffic. We've spent so much time over the last 15 years with a discussion between social media influence combined with SEO. That's what people have done is, hey, we're in a rush hour. We're in a massive rush hour, backed up traffic. When you're on the internet, that's the case.
Yeah.
And the only way to get out of that rush hour is to get into the HOV lane. How do you get in that HOV lane? There's different ways to get in that HOV lane. One of the ways, and let's break that down in what we're talking about here, whether it's Main Street entrepreneurship, whether it's the homestead community, the organic lifestyle community, marketing community. Let's break that down. How do we get out of the rush hour traffic where we're just one number out of millions into the HOV lane so we can move our businesses faster, move the word about get the word out about what we're doing more efficiently, and how can we do it online, and how can we do it as like you just said, how can it co-join itself between what we're doing physically and what we're doing virtually? How can we enhance both? I think that is kind of where we're going to cap this out, going toward what this video is all about. And because
you hit on something there.
Yeah.
You hit on something, Jeff, because I think what happens is we're still, our minds are still trying to comprehend everything that's happened in the last 3 years.
Mhm.
And something that I watched you do when you made that decision and you called and said, look, I'm going to the homestead. I'm going to set up a new base. This is what I'm going to do. You had one specific task, and that was to be able to shift from city life back to the homestead life. One thing. And I think that anybody, whether it's Main Street, whether it's off grid, doesn't matter. They've got to find that one thing that's going to simplify their life. And I think too many times we're still being bombarded. Most people are picking up their phone. They're on social media. They're doing all, instead of saying, okay, I need to go old school. I need to write down exactly what it is I want to do and why I want to do that. Whether it's I'm gonna do online. I'm going to get rid of some stuff that's not selling. I'm going to start one item to be able to say, okay, this is the direction I'm going, and then get help. Watch our videos or get some local help from somebody. But they've got to narrow that down to one thing that they want to do, and then they got to move out from that, because if they don't do that, they're going to get that, what do we used to call it, paralysis of analysis. They're going to be trying to figure out everything they're doing instead of one thing. I mean, you didn't have a full scale plan. You just said, I'm going back up there. I've got my pole barn. I can stay in there if I want to for a minute, and I'm going to start. And you just did it. And I think that's what other people got to do.
I've always been an outdoorsman. If I hadn't, I probably would have freaked out doing what I'd done, because I really did go to the extreme, what I've done here. But I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed every second of it. Whether it was the winter time or the summertime, it didn't matter what, fall, spring, seeing all the different seasonal changes, weighing through the storms, some of the craziest wind storms, lightning storms, snowstorms you can imagine. But the beauty of it is this: as I did all that, the homestead, the land, the mountain here, because 22 years ago I bought the whole side of one mountain, but I bonded with the land. I bonded with the trees. I bonded with the dirt. I bonded with the skies. I bonded with the scenery, with the views. And I shared a lot of this online with a lot of people, and I'm capturing what they're interested in. I'm capturing what catches their attention. What really turns them on is if I share a certain picture of a certain mushroom or a certain bark of a tree or certain sunset or sunrise or of my rooster crowing, whatever it may be. tying the bond that I have, the love that I have for what I do, and finding where other people can love it too
Mhm.
is an important part of where we are in society nowadays. Is not all so complicated. I've been guilty of making life so complicated over the years because I am an analysis paralysis kind of guy. I analyze everything. I dig into everything down to the nitty gritty. Heck, you're talking to someone who had a scholarship to become a medical doctor when I was younger, and I walked away from it because I wanted to do marketing and I wanted to do other things. I didn't want to be the medical doctor, even though I got a scholarship to go to medical school.
Listen, we got to let these people know. I can put up a 1-sentence meme on Facebook and you will write 16 paragraphs on what that one little sentence means. It's like, well, I don't know where he went in that direction, but okay, that's
That's
he hit
true.
on something
Yeah.
there.
You know, and my
Yeah,
brain don't work in sentences. It works in paragraphs. Sometimes
man.
it works in entire chapters. And it doesn't stop. Everybody, and you know, that's the truth. Everyone's brain is different.